After living on the boat for 8 years, we realized that having clean fuel is almost never possible. It's always freaking dirty, or it's clean and then it sits in the tank for some time and it becomes dirty.
Any exploration vessel should have a set of day tanks like the trawlers. So you're pumping the fuel from the major tanks into separate smaller tanks, and that's what you're going to use during the day. And while you're transferring it, you also filter it. So now you know you've got clean fuel going into your engines, especially if you're hitting really nasty weather that's messing all that stuff up that's in the fuel tank.
So it shouldn't be really called a day tank, in my opinion. It should be called like a buffer tank.
Yeah, it's called a day tank because it's supposedly what you're going to use in a day. In a catamaran, then you're going to have a day tank on the port and a day tank on the starboard.
How long can you actually hold that fuel in the day tank?
How long are you sailing and how long are you motoring? But effectively 66 to 67 liters on the port and on the starboard. So we've got at least 3 days of heavy duty motoring.
Okay, but I mean, if I didn't use everything that I've put in that day tank, so what happens then? Do I keep it in the day tank or I put it back somehow in the main tank?
No, actually you leave it there because it's a smaller quantity, it's a smaller tank, so it doesn't have condensation and bacterial growth like you're going to have on a big tank, because our boat has 450 liters per side. So that's a lot of fuel to get contaminated, and when you're bouncing around, all of the junk on the bottom gets thrown to the top, and that's why a lot of nasty weather sailing is when the engine's cut out. As an expedition vessel, it's pretty important to have fuel because you never know where you're going to be able to get good fuel, or even if you're going to be able to get fuel. So this vessel has inboard tanks on the port and the starboard side. And those inboard tanks are actually part of the hull. It's a double thickness part of the hull, and each side has 450 liters. So we have a port side feeding the port side engine and a starboard feeding the starboard engine. What I've designed is a link system that I can transfer fuel from port or starboard in the event you have an engine failure or you have a problem. And then I've also installed new bulkheads through the watertight interim bulkhead system because I wanted them a little bit higher above the waterline. And then I've installed day tanks. So I'll be able to pump polished clean fuel from the main tank into a day tank, and I can fill those day tanks from either side. I'm currently sitting on top of the starboard tank. It takes up actually between two stringers, so it is part of the hull, and it is holding 450 liters. We had a sight tube, and it's still there for checking the fuel level, and we're adding sight gauges. So in the middle you can see what fuel you have, but I'm going to be pumping from this tank with a pump, electric, into the day tank. And then the day tank can use gravity to feed the engine. So if we get struck by lightning, all the power goes out, we still have the ability to run the engines by gravity feed rather than using electric pumps. Another huge advantage of having this well in the center is if the sight tube would break or there'd be a leak in the fuel tank, it'll run to the lowest section of this boat, and the bilge pump then has the ability to pump it back out again, and it's not going to be scattered all over the boat.
And if you guys are not familiar, this might look unfinished to you, but this is William's lab. He actually booked this room for himself, reserved it, and you can see this is the true definition of a man cave.
Hey, I'm not in a cave.
Yes, you are. And you are a caveman, in fact.
Did you book a night in our cave? I'd have to clean it out just to fit you in here. This tool room has been custom designed for little short people.
I can't even stand here. Ow. 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 Anyways, the fuel system is here.
The day tank is a 60 liter, and I have one for port and starboard. Each tank has its own fill and its own return. In this case, I'm using the fill side, and then the return side will be going to the actual engine tank. And I have the capacity to switch and polish from either side of the tanks and transfer fuel from either side, port and starboard. I built the same on the port and starboard side. We're currently still sitting on the starboard side. And this day tank is made for fuel. It's designed with a thick wall construction. We then pump the fuel from the main tank through the Raycor filter and then into this tank. And now the tank feeds the engine, which has another set of filters. And after the engine has bypassed the fuel, it comes on the return back to the same tank. So we actually have 4 or 5 days of running per tank. But what's most important is we have the ability to switch from port and starboard, which means we can now run the engines on either side, or we can transfer fuel either side. There is one more transfer valve, so I can control where the return goes, whether it comes to this tank or it goes to the other tank. So we have all the opportunities for switching fuel around. If you look back on the video, the guys locked up an engine around Seychelles. So the fuel we currently have in this boat came all the way from the Seychelles, actually from Africa, because we couldn't burn in the one running engine on port side the fuel from the starboard side. That's never going to happen now again, because we have the ability to pump at port or starboard, both electrically or actually manually. So we have what I call a true expedition fuel system. Now I'm going to go ahead and hook up the rest of the hoses, because we've tested this for 40 miles. Everything's working great. Now I'm going to put the hoses where they belong and make them nice and pretty and safe.
Everybody was telling us in the comments that aluminum boats are known to be super hot. And honestly, you guys got me a little concerned. So let's see. I have now what's called, I believe, a heat gun. Is it? William is schooling me from the back. That's called a temperature gun. So first I'm going to measure and see what's up with the porthole. So you can see it's 40 degrees Celsius. Then I'm going to do the hull, which is 33 degrees Celsius. And now I'm going to do the stringer, which is 39 degrees Celsius. And now, where we have already the finished teak wood, I'm going to measure the same and see what's the differences. Not much. 33.
By using the thick insulation and then an air gap and the teak wood, we have eliminated most of the heat transfer all the way down to around 33 degrees, when the actual aluminum on the outside is around 40 degrees plus. Now we're going to shoot the same temperature way down in the bottom of the hull, where we're going to put the keel coolers, because that's going to be actual water temperature and the hull temperature.
I don't understand why it should be any different measuring the hull here versus measuring the hull there. It literally should be the same, because here we have insulation. Okay, fair enough. But this is the same thing. So I don't understand why we're supposed to measure here. $31. Which is 2 degrees difference, I guess.
2 degrees makes a huge difference in temperature transfer. And the reason why it's cooler down here is because this is where the keel is. And that's why they're called keel coolers. It's the lowest point of the boat. That's where we're going to put the keel coolers. And now we don't have to be running all of our circulating water through the air conditioner, getting full of mud, fish, and dirt.
Maybe if you're an engineer, 2 degrees will make a difference for you, but if you are a woman and you are hot and it's 33 or 31, 2 degrees do not make any difference. So I hope, Mr. your keel cooler gonna work, so the temperature can go not from 33 to 31, but from 33 to 27. I'd be pretty happy about it.
Actually, as an engineer, we're going from 40 to 28. But because it's only 31 to 28 by the keel, the air conditioner doesn't have to work that hard. It only has a small transfer of energy and heat. But you know, 1 degree, 2 degrees, 1 centimeter, 10 centimeters, it does make a difference.
As you guys believe. It's not the size, it's the skill. Which team are you on? The size or the skill team? Let me know in the comments. I'm gonna go measure some other temperatures.
Well, that temperature is 33 degrees, so it doesn't need much to cool it down either. I thought it would be around 50.
William has been working on this boat in the heat, in the boatyard, without any air conditioning, and he never complained once. Me, on the other hand, I am sweating to death and I'm just grasping for air. William! Where is that air conditioning?
Here's your air conditioner. After testing for the last 4 years, DC air conditioner is the only way to go. So we're putting a 12,000 BTU on the port and the starboard upper deck side, so I've got circulation all the way around. So I designed the cabinets and the ventilation to handle these DC units. I guess it's time to get the damn thing inside. Presto, air conditioner's installed. Now the tubing, the water, the coolant, the controls. Most importantly, we have designed keel coolers that will be in the port and starboard hull. So I'm not going to be pumping in raw water from the sea and clogging everything up like on the other boats. So we're going to be circulating it through our hulls, and that's what's going to keep this air conditioning at the most efficiency at the DC voltage. All of this will be uniquely tucked under the upper day bed, so we'll have storage for all of our food, containers, pots, pans on the front and on the back side of this. And on the inside will be the air conditioning location, which will be fully insulated for both noise and temperature. Monohull catamaran.
No, that's not what the elephant does, right?
No.
That's a trumpet. Is it a trumpet? Oh. I cannot do an elephant.
That's a Norwegian bird call.
Go ahead. Show the elephant.
Oh, the elephant.
Not that, not
Bad elephant.
the sound.
We've been working on this boat way too long. We're about to begin the ductwork, running where the air comes in and goes out. Now that is duct, not ductwork. Come along with us. Found that on a boat, the most important is have circulating air. On the other boats, we have to turn a bunch of fans on to get the cool air dispersed. In this case, we've got the air conditioning pull the air in from the actually front of the boat, then alongside this cabinet and exiting in the galley. So the galley is going to be more cool than the rest. The other side, it's going to pull from the aft and then blow out of the front and blow air into the lower helm station where I'm sitting. So we should have this circulating air system, and we can turn one on or off as needed.
We keep having these pumps blowing up on us on our catamaran, and it's been literally so annoying because literally every 3 days something is happening with air conditioning. And I really hope that one of these guys that we're gonna install not gonna do the same. Which one of this we're gonna install, by the way? This one? Oh, it's like Matrix. Which pillar are you gonna take, the green one or the red one?
Well, we're not going with this one because the size, the weight, and it is a 230 volt, which is an out for us. I'm not going with this one because it's also 230 volt, and we've gone through 4 of these in the last 6 months. That's an out. We are actually going to be using the variable speed DC pump that we've tested with the DC air conditioner. 1/3 the size, no weight, runs off of DC, and more importantly, all of the fittings are smaller and still provides plenty of capacity. And finally, for those guys repairing this all the time, they have a connector. You disconnect this pump, connect another one, and you're good to go. No wire ties, no terminals, no laying upside down in your bilge for 2 hours. Put your hands on this little guy. That's the wrong pump. 90% complete, and I decide to maximize space to mount it on the outside. So Rev 2 coming up.
conditioning and fuel saga almost done. Oh, yes, yes. That's all air conditioning I'm getting for now.
Yeah, that's it. You know, let the wind blow. Thank you for being here. The next episode is going to be cool. We found an amazing boat, and we're going to bring that to you. And after that, deep dive into the electrical. And Dawn Hunter is still floating.
It's still floating. We are progressing. And this is the doggy. Let us know in the comments, questions, concerns, and we apologize for the live last time. We're still trying to figure out what to do, and once we do, and we have a stable connection, we will reschedule.
Yes, so thank you all the patrons. Thank you over 81,000 people. If you didn't subscribe, push the button. We need you guys that are not subscribed to subscribe so we can like jump around when we hit 100,000. All right, cool. Later.